G'day listeners, today we're joined by Paul Ross, the founder of the Citizens Dividend Organisation. We're going to be chatting about coopetysm, the efficiencies in the economy, homelessness in Melbourne, the wastage in our economy, cybernetics. Really looking forward to our chat.
All right,
let's go. G'day listeners, welcome to My First Party, the podcast where we meet people at the grassroots of politics in Australia. I'm Owen Miller, I'm a candidate for the Fusion Party, and with us as usual, Peter Cargiotis, the man about town in Brunswick.
That's better for
that. The claims won't be as grandiose. So Paul, Citizens Dividend Organisation. I wonder, by the way, there's many ways of marketing, Citizens Dividend. Some people know it as universal basic income. I saw you were also referring to it as universal subsistence income. These are all the same thing, aren't they, in your book?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. What do you think about the different brandings then? Which one do you think makes people most excited?
Well, basic's a bit, that word is a bit pejorative. That's pretty basic. So it doesn't sound very good. I think if you had a marketing firm and you sent them away to figure out a name for a new policy and they came back with basic, I think you'd be pretty upset. I think so every time an advocate mentions that, they're undermining their own cause. That's what I think. And the second thing is, at least with subsistence, it goes back to the Industrial Revolution. So you had subsistence farmers, and our argument is that what should have happened, ideally, and it's no one's fault because it just simply the narrative wasn't there, but if they implemented the universal subsistence income at that time, because it was an inheritance from the machines, then we wouldn't be having the problems that we have. For instance, we wouldn't have had the universal minimum hourly wage. That would never have come in.
Oh, sorry, you see it as a problem that we have a minimum wage?
Absolutely.
Well, we wouldn't have got to that point. But don't you think, just going back to the point about marketing, don't you think the word subsistence actually has almost a minimalist derogatory term as well? I'm saying there could be a better term.
Well, perhaps there is.
Yeah. I think to me it has the same derogatory almost connotation if we're just talking about from a branding perspective.
I think that's an interesting point, Pete. I mean, we've tried other things. For example, universal survival income.
Well, I don't disagree. I think all those terms are still in the same bubble.
The Citizens Dividend, I really like that one. This is part of our society. We deserve to, reap the profits.
What they call a living wage or whatever, but I think something where we needed something else that actually...
But Paul, a moment ago, you were saying it's a problem that we have a minimum wage. Can you elaborate?
That's the cause of unemployment.
Okay. Yeah.
And when you have unemployment, you have all sorts of other problems. For example, employee exploitation. It's not employee exploitation, not solely from minimum wages, because it's also because people are suffering subsistence income servitude.
Well, but if you didn't enforce a minimum, then wouldn't more people end up in this subsistence servitude? Wouldn't more people have?
Yeah, they would with the same system.
Yeah,
and this is the issue we have because we're changing more than one thing at once. We're saying you've got to put in the universal subsistence income, and at the same time, get rid of the...
I see.
So you're saying you almost need to create a buoyancy where everyone just stays afloat, regardless, and then you can actually then choose from that point on how much you want to pay others, because then there's competition for that labour. Where at the moment you're creating this austerity, false austerity, because everyone's at a lower thing, and you create artificially the market because you're not paying people what they should be getting paid based on what the market should be, because you're creating this austerity. And then, like we've spoken about with some of our other guests, especially some of our Labor advocates, where, brought up the fact that it was Hawke and Keating that brought in the Accord, right? That suppressed wages for Australian workers. So it was their own people that were brought in, especially with Hawke and KCTU, to create that artificial leverage in the marketplace.
I wonder actually, Paul, can you tell us a bit about, what got you politically motivated? made you, I see that you're the founder of the Citizens Dividend Organisation.
What occurred is that I was overseas for almost 2 decades, and I left in 2000. And at that time, Windows Messenger was the predominant new technology innovation. And I found it, frankly, I found it amazing that you could, in real time, type a little note and have that sort of interaction. And anyway, I came back in 2017. I mean, I had been back, but not to stay.
Yeah. Oh, where were you, sorry?
I was in a few places, but mostly in China.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I came back, and I was just happened to be walking the streets of Melbourne, and I couldn't believe all the homeless people. And I thought, oh, hang on, what's been going on here? You know, when I left, there was Windows Messenger.
What year was that when you left?
2000.
Okay.
I think it came out in 1999 or something. And now we have, we had Facebook and everything else. Anyway, whatever the technology was.
Is this thought, sorry, like Windows Messenger could have changed the world? Why didn't it?
No, the point was that our technology, our science and technology is exponentiating.
Is it?
Yes. Well, I mean, from Windows Messenger to in fact, there was the video. What do you call that one? I forget it.
It's growing quickly.
Like
sure.
Teams and so forth. But I think we're also missing the point that in that period where you left, which was at the turn of this millennia, 1999 to 2000, it was also the period after Jeff Kennett closed a lot of the institutions and so forth, and we had a lot of political change, and we privatised a lot of stuff here. So there's a lot of political change in Victoria as well. It wasn't necessarily just to do with technology.
Well, I think that's true. But getting back to the question, but I think that's true, and that sort of goes into something else. But I'd like to mention. But my feeling was that the homeless on the street was worse than when I left. And so, hang on, we'd had this, technology had gone up, and maybe the human organisation has gone backwards, and that's the point. But it was just, it was terrible. I mean, all these homeless people, worse than before, it seemed, anecdotally. And yet we've had all this potential productivity improvement, emphasis on the potential. So that was the reason.
I see. And so giving a citizens dividend would be like the main fix for this problem, you're saying?
Well, there's other problems as well, and I think efficiency, for example, which I know you mentioned, effectiveness and efficiency, and to be able to get rid of the minimum wage, and yet to have people better off, to have universal empowerment, to have opportunity. Once you haven't got unemployment, of course, people can say to themselves, well, I'm not happy with this culture at this workplace, and so I'm going to go over there.
Yeah.
And so employers have to really get their acts together there as well, and that will actually help them, because in a good culture, people work better. So.
Oh, well, I guess it'll help companies that want to hire these motivated employees. I guess would they be the same companies that wanted to keep a low minimum wage? It might not be the same people.
Well, the two biggest costs in any company, is labour and building, right? The infrastructure of the building. They're the two biggest costs.
Well, for typical businesses, sure.
Yeah. So labour is always one thing that they can talk about, try and create efficiencies and so forth, but they always go for the quickest solution, and that is to affect the cost of labour.
Yeah.
Because it's the easiest thing to manipulate. And get a quick win on. They always go for that. So as much as I'll talk about efficiencies and particularly effectiveness, I'll never measure effectiveness because that's too difficult to measure, especially longitudinal. So they just manipulate the labour costs. And that's why they'll outsource and do everything else. And why they won't even use technology effectively to get good outcomes, because I'll just go straight for the easy one, and that's reduce heads at different levels.
Yeah, it's actually, I was reading through the history of corporate raiders, in the 70s, the 80s. That seems to be, the model of load a company up with debt, and so that each employee feels scared, like, oh shit, I better help the company survive because then I'll lose my job. And then, unfortunately, this sort of pushed cybernetics out of the way as a management theory. Actually, yeah. So, Paul, reading through your stuff, it some of your charts about the flows between like citizens and the government, it reminded me a lot of cybernetics. Are you very familiar?
I'm not at all.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know of it, but I'm not familiar with it. No, so it's something for me to look at.
Yeah. Actually, for readers, listeners, if you're curious, so one of the definitions I quite liked was that cybernetics is circular causal and feedback mechanisms in biological and social systems. They also framed it as the science of government, as in governing anything, not just people. But
that is interesting how they link nature to government, which is something we do. So.
Yeah, all these feedback systems. It's because you see, especially in the context of corporate raiders, it's very much top down, as opposed to the cybernetic view of like feedback loops to management, and like a self-rearranging democratic organization.
Okay.
Very different to do this or you're fired, that sort of thing. Yeah. So
And what sort of, I guess, how does your manifesto, if I could call it that, translate to practical applications?
In terms of the policy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the policy would be it's threefold, or three parts to it. Implement the universal subsistence income and as a substitute for minimum wages and also income welfare. And the income welfare includes not just payments, but also policies such as universal childcare, and so subsidies for that, and also tax breaks for superannuation, these types of things. They're all forms of income welfare, and they're not needed if you have a universal subsistence income.
Oh, I see. We'll get rid of the tax breaks for childcare.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
So,
I see. Yeah, I guess this would be an alternative to universal services. The universal basic income would be a substitute for that.
but one thing we would keep is, and we deepen, is Medicare. We'd have dental, which I understand is the Greens policy. So that's one policy that we agree with them.
For many parties, actually, including Fusion.
Is it? Okay, including Fusion.
But
Fusion's a very, very interesting party.
I don't tell my guests what to say, by the way.
No, they haven't been put up to this. But I do recommend, actually, that people do look at the Fusion policies.
So, you were going to deepen Medicare to include more things.
There's 4 infrastructures, social infrastructures that we advocate. 3 of them we basically already have, and it's evolved naturally since the Industrial Revolution. And we don't think that's a coincidence. But anyway, the first one is rule of law, or more specifically, rule of coopetition law. And I'll just explain that this is the overarching narrative. Coopetition is cooperation first and foremost, and within that context, competition as a treasured second. If you think about it, that's what we have in ubiquitously, whether it's sport, so you have rules, people agree on the ground, on the umpires, etc., and then they compete. Whether it's a court of law, whether it's democracy, whether it's the economy. Now, some of these things aren't done exceptionally well, but that's basically the premise behind what we're doing without us even thinking about it. And that's because it comes from nature.
Competing and cooperating comes from nature.
Cooperation within a social context. Cooperation first and foremost.
Sure. But you're not
within that context, competition.
But you're not suggesting that's what happens
second.
in our marketplace at the moment.
What I'm suggesting is that it's about 80% like that.
Well, I'd say Australia's virtually on the tipping point of monopoly, duopoly on many fronts, and that's been
airlines, phones.
Yeah, and that's been cultivated that way. So my follow-up question to part B on that is, who's the arbitrator in that ideal world if those in power at the moment are basically cultivating us to be a monopoly duopoly in Australia?
We don't have this system 100%, and this is why we're advocating for it. But if you want an extreme example, because in Australia, we don't sort of perhaps look at very often examples where there's a fall down in cooperation. But if you go to, in war zones, that's an example. So Australia is not a war zone. So we have a lot more, we have about 80, 90%, 95% cooperation. I mean, if you drive your car, people obey the rules most of the time.
If you're in a car,
in some countries they don't.
If you're a cyclist, they aren't.
So, but just to get back to the point, I did understand the war zone concept.
It's not very cooperative.
I thought you meant like in Australia we're not quite there, but in the war zone they are more cooperative.
No, the opposite.
Well, I actually could say that in a war zone some people are very cooperative because you don't follow the military. Then it's basically just guerrilla warfare as opposed to
on a societal basis.
Yeah, true. So, split. But in Australia, I'm still making the case that we don't have that competitive nature, innate, as you described it. Yeah, I'm saying it's a very much, it's almost a big cultivated to be that monopoly duopoly at the moment. There is no real competition. So how do we put what you're suggesting in place? How does it work?
Okay.
And who arbitrates it to make sure that they play to the new terms of reference and the rules of competition, competition?
Sure. Yeah. So specifically talking about the economy, we have regulators, ACCC and those types of people, those types of organisations. Now, people can comment about whether they're doing a good job.
Yeah, and everyone knows they're not.
But that's the idea. That's the general idea. We have commercial law. That's the general idea. There's things you can't do it as a business. Many things. And now you've always got to tweak it. But I think one of the things with this idea, and I know this is not exactly what you're asking, is for everybody to be on the same page. We have education about a lot of things. And I think perhaps we could consider educating people about the idea of cooperation first and foremost, and competition as a treasured second. And if everybody's on that page, then the regulators and in the democracy, the voters will say, well, hang on, you're not doing that.
But I get that as a concept, right? As a theoretical concept. But no one in history unless someone points it out, has ever cut their nose to spite their face, right? And we're seeing right now, whether it's the technocrats or anyone, the differentiation between those who have and have not is just getting wider throughout the globe. So there is no way just by educating people to say, this could be an ideal state. It's the very sort of short monologue you gave there. That's going to change because those who actually have the wealth and power now are just doing more to increase it. So, it's not as if Elon Musk, as they're saying, is the richest man in the world. He's just the greediest cunt around at the moment, right? And they're just getting greedier. And I'm saying there's no benevolence in some of these people, right? And corporations.
We might be able to say he's greedy, sure. But
no, I'm saying because, where's the behaviour to demonstrate the Elon Musk hospital, the Elon Musk whatever?
Well, I mean, his efforts might make us an interplanetary species.
Really? No. The promise of the I will deliver is all he delivers.
No, but what do you mean? The rockets are going, the SpaceX...
Are subsidised by NASA.
It doesn't matter. This is a completely separate argument.
No, but that's my point.
Your argument is saying that Elon Musk is doing nothing for humanity.
Yeah.
But, look at the rockets.
Yeah, which are subsidised by NASA.
It doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is he's pursuing goals that do improve humanity.
All right. My point is, though, these individuals are not going to give up their wealth just by a statement that if we educate us about what could happen, they're going to give it up.
I agree with that. Yeah, actually, so on the point, so I'm with Peter.
So my point is then, how do we make this change when those who have are just getting greedier?
Well, perhaps for a concrete example, we were talking recently on the podcast about the Australian government imposing price controls on supermarkets. The notion was that people are being price gouged. Coles and Woolworths, duopoly in Australia, they're making too much profit, and so we're going to have price controls for groceries. Do you see this as an example of where this cooperatism?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't see that at all. You have the universal subsistence income, and if there's inflation, well, that'll be incorporated in that because it'll be indexed.
But sorry, Paul, can you point to like a concrete example? I'm struggling to get my head around. How would this actually play out?
So
like is it the competition stuff?
Oh, okay. Well, it's playing out everywhere.
Oh, but you're saying you're going to make it happen.
Yes.
More?
Okay. So, we're saying there's 4 infrastructures, social infrastructures. One, the universal rule of coopetition law, Medicare, universal education, and the 4th one is this, what we call the USI for UMHOW reform. UMHOW being universal minimum hourly wages, and USI being universal subsistence income. So that is critical because that delivers freedom. If you have all 4 of those and they're somehow reasonably well done, then because of that, you have universal liberal democracy. At the moment, we don't have that. We think we do, or some people think we do, but we don't have it because we have subsistence income servitude. 80% of the population must do whatever they have to get their subsistence income. So that's not freedom.
Are you saying, sorry, if everyone had enough money to get by, then, just as Francis Fukuyama predicts, that liberal democracy will be like the ultimate, societal system?
Yes, he didn't go far enough. Frankly, it was pretty wishy-washy what he wrote. Have you read it?
Not the whole thing, no.
I mean, he never really actually sort of definitively states it, sort of. And anyway, I mean, that is universal liberal democracy, I think, is the ideal. And, but as I say, you can't have subsistence income servitude for 80% of the population at least and say, we've got that?
Yeah, we've discussed this before, like how in America, people, they may have a nice job, but their whole family's existence is, slave to the healthcare that their employer gives. So they can't leave their employer. So, we're not that far off here based on, as Mr. Albanese believes for everyone, the cost of living. Everyone's sort of enslaved to here now as well. But back to the maybe original question, how do we make this happen by this policy other than just informing people? Because that's almost...
we're saying, sorry, if we implement the universal subsistence income, then that's like the main thing. If people start cooperating afterwards.
I think it's all interlinked. I mean, you can have the narrative, so at least people, start to hear it, start to register and think about it, and if they disagree, well, let's hear it. But then also you have the policy which reinforces that. I mean, you have the infrastructure, the social infrastructure, which mirrors. I mean, for example, we're saying, we hear comments from politicians saying things like, you got to have a go to get a go. And, we're all in this together. Well, if we're all in this together, why are people being punished? And what, is there much bigger punishment? I mean, there are, but are there many much bigger punishments than subsistence income servitude, which we take for granted?
So how far does the cutting welfare off, I know you mentioned a bit about it, go to say mining companies?
Sorry?
Welfare that mining companies get.
Okay.
Do we cut that off as well?
Well, all income welfare should be cut off.
Yeah, I'm curious because you didn't go that far with the explanation. So I'm not arguing against that. I'm just curious how far.
Yeah. Look, other thing Every policy that I've ever heard that's supposed to help the disempowered is band-aiding that costs the government more money, and therefore taxpayers. This policy, and I just make this point first. If you look at the GDP per capita, it's about $100,000 a year. So now we're talking the realm of facts.
Australian dollars.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we can all think about how much it costs to live as a single adult. And I think it's pretty fair to say that you need at least $20,000.
I'll take your word for it. Okay.
Could you live on less than
Without
$20,000 a year?
What does 20,000 cover? You're talking about
Everything.
not accommodation
Subsistence
as well.
income. Right. So you're saying it's not even that?
No.
Okay. Well, let's say it is 20,000. Take the minimal amount, right?
For argument's sake.
For argument's sake. Because I agree with it. So we've got 100,000 GDP per capita, and it costs at least 20,000 to live. So that means that ratio, GDP per capita to the subsistence income that you need, is 5. So if you go back 265 years in Manchester at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, perhaps that ratio, not GDP, but national product to subsistence, was something like 1.3. So that means it's increased 4 times.
You're saying it should be more.
It's about 10,000 times. Our potential productivity from science and technology. I mean, the example at the beginning was from messenger to, I don't know, AI. So we've gone from the shovel to AI, and all we can manage is 4 times better.
Or I would push back on that.
No. I'm glad you brought that up because Owen's a very big advocate of technology, and and whether we're talking about the shovel or having some. Why did you argue that aliens going to give us something in space?
Well, becoming an interplanetary species.
Okay, so whatever. Let's say you create something for us so we can have some subsistence in Mars, allegedly, or whatever other species he's procreating at the moment. Tell us what benefit it's going to add to my life, because I'm saying technology hasn't given us free time that it's offered us to the Jetsons, right?
Sorry, I meant to justify what's so great about technology.
No. In general, like the free time it's given us, the leisure time. Go.
No, I don't think it has fulfilled it. So if we look back to the Jetsons, so in the 50s and 60s, there was great hope. Keep in mind, listeners, the US moon landing was allegedly in 1969. And so, in that lead up, in the space race and everything, there was this vibe that technology was going to liberate us. All these extra efficiency improvements would allow us to, have much more leisure time. But the thing is, and Paul, this was my objection to your claim, people will always want more. And so when we talk about, for instance, so you chose the invention of the steam engine by Boulton and Watt.
Wasn't Stevenson? Stevenson steam train?
Oh, that name doesn't sound familiar. Or the steam train, maybe. Maybe. But anyway, sorry. My point is, if we consider the subsistence living back in 1760 versus subsistence living now, in South Korea, for instance, they say internet access is a human right. In Australia, we would say, so by the way, when we're guessing at numbers, so Basic Income Australia uses the Henderson poverty line, basically people skipping meals, skipping medicine, that sort of thing. They find that as poverty. So that's $500 per week. But, poverty in Australia means having no electricity, not having access to a flushing toilet, for instance, versus if we look back, centuries, these would have been things only available to royalty. We're living like kings in this modern era. And so even, people who are poor in Australia are still far exceeding, the steam engine days.
Someone on $20,000 is far exceeding?
Whatever number you want to pick. My point is, sure, there are some...
It's a relative statement. So again, we could be comparing, one polished turd to another polished turd. My point is that I'm going to make about this is financial stress is still financial stress. Worrying about are your kids healthy, fed, how they are with you're educated, that's still like the same stress a parent would go through.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, you might not be sitting them down to pick coal, but as a parent, it's still financial stress and everything else that you go through. So that is the same sort of relative issue that people are going through. So it is happening in Australia, which it shouldn't, and they're making decisions that are facilitating that behaviour. That's it.
I wonder actually. So I was saying, part of my argument was that people just want more, and that's why they have to keep working because they want to spend more money on like multiple cars, that sort of thing. I see a big change where, like, I guess in the 1900s, advertisers, marketers got a lot better, and so that's partly why people want more now. Would you agree that many of these sort of consumerism fits into a lot of, I guess, Francis Fukuyama's ideas, perhaps? Like, consumerism keeps people fixed in this world order.
100%.
And like maybe if we focused less on GDP maximization and consumerism, that would go a long way to resolving some of the problems that you identify.
Well, it wouldn't. I think, sorry to jump in. I'm not saying it's about resolving, but we are all as complicit in this as as we say the other said this. You get the government we deserve, right? So our ignorance and participation in this we're partly responsible for it as well.
Yeah. Oh, many people openly advocate for it. They say, like, I want, I guess, like a more prosperous country. Oh, like, I guess asking for a prosperous country, is there any moral hazard in that?
No. I think we should want a sustainable, stability, prosperous country. My point, which I haven't yet made yet after all this, is that actually the reason it's 5, I mean, there's no doubt that
What's 5, sorry?
The ratio,
Oh, okay, yeah.
GDP per capita to subsistence
sure.
is only 5, is because of the wastage. And that goes back to Peter's point when he was alluding to human organisation. The science of technology has exponentiated. There's no doubt. I mean, and as I said, Windows Messenger, that's only 25 years ago. And now we've got AI.
Yeah.
And back before, so it is exponentiating. It's probably doubling every 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But so that's potential productivity is doubling every 5 to 10 years, and our ratio is 5.
But you're saying
265 years.
lots of our production is being wasted. Wasted on what?
Oh, okay. So
Chasing oil for us.
the waste is it's really beyond imagination, beyond my imagination. But let's start. How many jobs are actually producing the things that we want? And now we've got to say, what do we want? Fuel, housing, health, education, technology, cars. That's what we want. So how many jobs are doing that? I mean, you've got many, many people who are sort of, for instance, mental health people. Now, that's I've got nothing against them. And we need them because we've got such a bad system, which is automatically generating people with mental illness. Now, if you have the USI for UMHOW reform, if you have the USI replacing minimum wages and income welfare, you get rid of poverty, you eradicate, people don't understand this, but you eradicate unemployment, you can never have it.
Well, we don't call it that anymore.
You can never have unemployment if you have a USI and no minimum wage. So it's gone.
Sorry, aren't you just saying,
Perpetually.
like, there would be people who are not working, but you just wouldn't call them unemployed anymore?
So,
Well, it could be artists, for instance, right?
with the definition of unemployment, there's 3. There's unemployment, there's employed, and there's non-participatory.
Yeah.
If a person is not looking for work at the going wage rate, they are not unemployed.
Sure.
Yeah. So there'll be no unemployment.
Yeah, okay.
Can I just make a bit of a challenge on that? Not that point, but the previous point. If we have double negative here, no unemployment,
Yes.
right, for whatever the 3 categories are, but I agree with you. I would probably advocate we probably need more health professionals in the mental state because I would love to be in a position where I choose to like look after myself because I don't necessarily want to work now, and I want to look after my mental well-being. So it's a different take on how you're putting it, right? So I'd love people who have the ability to and insights to know how different people's minds work, because you may not know it, but Owen and I are very different in how we think and operate and even discuss things. And I perhaps want to have someone help me in a different way. So I think we do need those people in society who do have those nuances and abilities to help people who need different
Am I
help.
the one who needs help? Okay.
No, I have this involuntary, I got amputee, someone else's arm that just reaches out. No, but I think it's the other way around. When we do have that leisure time that hasn't been available to us.
You're saying some people might go crazy with the
No, that's when you actually can look after yourself and achieve what we all should be doing, is that self-awareness and self-development. And get to a point of,
life.
I'm so fucking comfortable with my own skin, I just want to keep doing this. And that's when you can go and do your Zen shit and all that, right? So that's when you actually need those proper goals even more.
I think that's great. I mean, that's the positive opportunity side of it, but improving yourself and wanting to do that.
But my challenge, but also my part B to that challenge is that the current jobs we're doing is what I'm saying is preventing us from getting to that, because we have idiots like Kavanagh and the whole LNP mining industry party that is basically saying, we're basically advocating for coal and chasing oil and the mining industry in business here. So that is what is stagnating us for the last 30, 40 years in this country. Like even AI stagnated in the 80s, 90s. It did.
Sure, we have
it could have progressed. It could have progressed further, right? It
Sure.
could have exponentially even been in a different state society-wise.
Yeah.
We'll be more in your camp. Not in that camp, but a different camp.
I know what you mean.
Right? Because we've been chasing other technologies. We had the oil crisis in the 70s because that's been dictated. The wars all over the Middle East because of the oil. The military arm because of the oil.
Oh, but we give them democracy as well.
Right. It used to be Christianity, but now it's just democracy. But I get your point.
Yeah. Oh,
well, it'd be better if we gave them universal liberal democracy, and we've given them
with the cross,
with the USI.
I see.
That's the
shot penicillin, actually.
Actually, on that point, what would you say that there's like a moral duty for, Australia, for instance, for any country? Like if we're sufficiently successful, do we have a moral duty to annex other countries and give them...
Good time.
Yes,
Annex.
That's a good, interesting idea.
Well, I think we have a moral duty to create the best system possible we can here, because then it'll be copied.
Oh, but like, should we forcefully make it copied?
No.
Okay. I see.
We should max it, and I think that's a very good question in a way. It is because we're always looking out there and saying, why don't they do this and why don't they do that? But actually, our system hasn't been perfected yet.
Yeah, agreed.
So let's do that, and then they will just pick it up.
But actually, so thinking about if we think about countries where there's a good focus on like mental health, so some countries subscribe to the happiness index instead of just GDP maximization. Loyal listeners will remember our discussions about Bhutan, and they're constantly growing wealth that's probably still unguarded. But then also
George, come on, you're secret.
But also New Zealand, for instance. I believe that in their they made it some sort of official law that they're going to aim for happiness. Yeah, I guess you would agree that Australia should also be aiming for something like this.
I don't. I'll tell you why. I think GDP as a measure is not really the problem. I know this is debatable, and we'll probably spend another session just on this. The problem is that we don't have efficiency, and we don't have. If we just put in this one policy, all of a sudden it does a lot of things. The flow throughs go through everything. It goes through the through every aspect of it. Socio disempowerment, but also goes through the economy. All of a sudden, we have so much regulation on the economy because we're worried about employee exploitation, which is correct. We should be worried about that. But if you have the USI and no unemployment, you're not going to have much employee exploitation.
Sorry, Paul, can we push back on this no unemployment claim? Like, let's just say we do have US, let's call it the Citizens Dividend.
Right.
So let's say we have that in place, and I, stop working my current job, and then I'm looking around for, say, like a new software engineering job.
Yes.
By me looking, I'm by definition unemployed now. And
no, not quite. There's two aspects to that. One, you must be looking, but two, you must be accepting of the going wage rate.
Well, it's not just that. It's like the right company. Like not.
No. If you want to be choosy, then you're not.
Maybe sure. Plenty of people are choosy.
I don't think I'm the most choosy person. Like $1,000 an hour.
No, it's not about. It's not about the money. It's like
okay. A lot of people want to work for Google. You're going to say they're unemployed. No, that's the definition of unemployment. And this is not Paul Ross's definition. This is economist's definition.
Well, either way, sure, okay. Like I am choosy enough that there would be some companies they'd be offering me enough money, and I would still not want to work there. So doesn't this mean that I'm unemployed?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, sorry. Okay, anyway, we'll have to.
Sure, your question is.
It's just sorry. I just can't agree on this definition that there'll be zero unemployment if we have UBI. Yeah.
It actually works in two ways. One is the way I've said. But the other way is that you can, with a USI, you can be self-employed. You can make handicrafts at home and put them on eBay.
Sure.
So it's not only dead, it's cremated. There can never be any unemployment. Yeah. So isn't that beautiful?
Are you a fan of Tony Abbott, by the way?
What?
Oh, dead, buried, cremated.
Oh, is that what he says?
I forget
Things
which.
you pick up.
Some sort of tax policy, I think he was.
I've met Tony.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Actually, maybe this is a good time for the quotes, the guessing game. So I'm going to read out. So this is not a philosopher this week. You'll see it's very much not a philosopher. So yeah, Paul, if you recognise who said this and how much we agree with it, Peter, you'll like this one. So quote unquote, this record, like they're going to. Okay, so this person is on top of the Rockefeller Center in New York, on top of it, on the roof. Anyway, they're about to play music. And he says, I've already given you a hint, it's he. This record is in honor of George Floyd, and I really hope we can see more unity and more peace when already things are so difficult. So shout out to his family.
Ooh. So it's going to be recent.
George Floyd, yeah. Paul, will you listen to much music?
Will it be someone I know?
Yeah. Okay, anyway, listeners, you might have guessed it, but it's David Guetta.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
he solved racism. He solved
really
oppression. He gave a shout out to George Floyd's family. Paul, wouldn't it be good? If you passed away, what if your family got a shout out from a famous DJ?
And here's the universal income or whatever it's called.
I'd rather that. Yeah. I'd rather that.
Yeah, but then you name to Rob Ross, and then it's like, damn, they got the name wrong. But wasn't he the drummer of Goanna? Yes, he was. Jesus. Anyway, to Goanna.
But yeah, I thought it was interesting as well. My brother was telling me something today about the Pope, the new American guy. He was saying something about how people should support cinemas and how actors were. What did he call it? Sorry, some sort of like. Rowers in the sea of creativity or something like that. It reminds me a lot of still in our society, celebrities, they still hold so much political cachet. Remember during the recent American presidential elections, there was all this fuss about, is Taylor Swift going to endorse Kamala Harris, for instance? Like, who cares? Like, who's looking up to, I saw a speech as well, Cardi B. Who? Oh my god, this rapper. It was a fucking train wreck, her endorsing Kamala Harris. And it's, like, why do people still look up to these celebrities? It's, total. I don't know, do you have an opinion on this, Paul?
I think it shows actually that what a vacuum there is. And so it's in a sense, really a signature. Oh, let's see, well, it's a signature of really how lost we are.
It's an indictment of where society is going. We're just focusing on them. Like celebrities, obviously, they had their space and made a star phenomenon, the turn of the last century, which all started, especially with cinema. Obviously, people, can even have your homoerotic experience by following, your Paul Newman and so forth, watching the screen throughout that whole process. But it just became like, it's sickening post, the Kardashians and everything else. And now, like you said, they basically hold sway. And I think you saw it politically. I think the Clinton campaign, they used them quite well.
Oh, Hillary Clinton.
No, Bill.
Oh, okay.
They used that process back then. Celebrities, they sort of good sort of sway in, using good songs, and he used it quite well. But then, since then it's just become massive. What celebrities have to say, which is. For some of them, like I think some are quite articulate and smart, like Ben Affleck. I think I've seen him. Like whether you agree with his views or not, he's a very articulate person. But others are just like, who gives a shit? It's just part of your. You've been told this is your merchandise, part of your brand that you're.
I guess with David Pocock, you see like his political enemies still like to characterise him as just a rugby player. And not a real politician.
He's the only one I actually like listening to.
Yeah. For people outside Australia, if you look him up, David Pocock, he used to be the captain of the Wallabies, a rugby team for Australia. He still keeps fit. But it turns out he's pretty switched on.
Yes,
it's very authentic.
A few things I disagree
very
with.
Very authentic.
Yeah. But actually, so thinking about our political allies and that actually. Paul, I'm curious, like are you familiar, by the way, Basic Income Australia? And
yes.
Yeah, so I guess there are other groups pursuing very similar objectives to you. What made you decide to start your own organisation separate?
Well, I think in one sense they're similar. For example, certainly the universal subsistence income, they agree with a different term, but same idea there. However, there's and I respect what they're doing. So, but for my thinking, they don't go far enough. There's no emphasis. I mean, what this policy achieves, the way we've structured it, is 5 big picture, what we call C-in. So SEE, C-I-N, and then big G. So the socio, it achieves infrastructural universal empowerment. The econo, it achieves efficiency. With the enviro, there's 2 elements of the enviro. One is international, so that's where you get the I, and the other is natural. So the enviro international, it retains our sovereignty, because the economy will go gangbusters and people will actually be producing what we want. With the environment, you eradicate most of the inefficiency, which is at least 90% of our economy today. That's why our ratio is only 5. Because the inefficiency is just so big. But just lastly, the last point, and this is really important because every policy we ever hear, it's going to cost the government more. Well, this doesn't. This costs the government less. This makes the government money because business is going gangbusters, revenue's coming in, non-USI expenditure absolutely collapses. It just collapses. Crime, no poverty. So the mental illness costs, according to the Productivity Commission, costs $250 billion in Australia per year. So that will be fractionalised.
Is this, when you talk about the costs, is this sort of like are you using logic as proof, or have you done any sort of economic analysis?
Well, it is mainly logic. I mean, crime,
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have poverty and you've got opportunity, people can find
I've only got one thing. I tried to bring this out before, right?
Okay.
I know no one's going to see this. So let's say that's the pie, right? And, at the moment, let's say, 10% of corporations are generating all that wealth. and the rest of us have this wealth, right? So what I'm hearing from you is that the main issue we have at the moment is inefficiency. That why we haven't generated that 5% to be greater.
Why the ratio
The
is
five,
falling.
yeah.
Yes.
So if we put all these other components in, bang, 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 the other stuff, the policies are implemented,
Yeah.
the efficiency will change.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I'm not arguing that point. Why would the ownership of these two parts change? When those you have, and that was the point I made earlier, where there was the Elon Musk thing, and I don't want to trigger you again, because I know you're a musky guy.
I like him more than the average person does, sure.
Right? So my point again is that this is still a class issue, a class warfare issue. It has nothing to do with my point about efficiencies, because if they could have generated more, but they like to keep more
To keep in control.
right? So how do we change that? Because unless someone all of a sudden decides, you know what? Oh my God, I didn't realize benevolence actually got me off. I'm going to do this. That is not going to change.
Well, you have a subsistence income. So subsistence income servitude is out. So therefore, people have the elite, if you like, have far less control.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Second thing is there's no unemployment, and so what happens is, and you mentioned this before, wages get bid up. I mean, there's a reason why a computer programmer might get $1,000 an hour or whatever, and that's because it's being bid up, and there's only a few of them, and it's supply and demand in that labour market. And this is, we saw it in COVID. This has been digressing a little bit, but the frontline workers, as they became called.
Oh, the essential
how
workers.
important they were. Yeah, essential workers. Yeah. People working at the supermarket and these jobs.
Nobody ever puts NFTs in the essential.
But that will be bid up because
But we also saw something else in COVID, which was even greater than that. That was initially, as soon as COVID started, we had Mr. Solomon Lew and so forth, and Coles and Safeway, not Safeway, what are they called now? Woolworths.
Oh, okay.
Speak to our lovely Prime Minister at the time, and they basically said, we need to support corporations and the workers. So give us the money to support the workers and the corporations. And in fact...
Well, so the people keep working there, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, but they got the money, right? And we'll decide how we give it to the workers. And I even heard Mr. Morrison at the time say, in order for you to be fed, we will bequeath these corporations, namely in this instance, Coles and Woolworths, to act as a cartel to ensure that the food gets out. They have free choice to act as they want, which they always did. We just told them now what was going on. So yes, we said, we'll clap for the nurses and everyone else, frontline workers, whilst we do the smoke and mirrors. But what's happening now? They're getting even more.
Oh, Coles and Woolworths are getting even more.
And the corporations, yeah.
Well, not government handouts though. They're getting like the government.
And Qantas and
Well, yeah, they're getting very favourable treatment, sure. But then
they didn't get favourable treatment. They got the key to the bank vaults, mate. And no, this is the LNP, right? That up until that point, their only platform they had was we're the economic managers. We keep that under control.
Yeah.
After that, what was his name?
The
fat cat, the fat cat that went to US.
He was the former treasurer. Are we thinking the same guy?
The LNP created the biggest. Not that it
Joe
matters.
Hockey.
Not that it matters anymore. They created the biggest debt ever.
It
right? It doesn't matter anymore.
Well, in nominal terms. I don't know if it's in real terms, but yeah.
This is named a JobKeeper.
And, and stuff that went to the corporations anyway. But Solomon Lew was part of the think tank that sits in.
Can you remind me, Solomon Lew, what company's he?
Well, Myers to begin with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on that, if we've got time or whatever, but the JobKeeper was really a lost opportunity. They could have. That was the perfect time to implement the USI for Army reform.
Why didn't they give it to the workers, but gave it to the corporations?
Well, I haven't even thought about that, Peter.
But that's the essence. That's the essence.
They had the opportunity to bring in the USI at that time and get rid of and it would have meant that businesses could adapt.
But you're failing to understand my point. That they chose not to do that because they want to maintain the status quo of who's in control. Because the government, the arbitrators that I was making before, whether it's these pseudo, so I'll call them pseudo, whether it's agencies that are meant to look after us, which are government-run agencies, right? They made the decision, no, we're going to give it to the corporations who are then going to give you these, morsels for this period, and then we go back to what we want, but even worse, right? Post-COVID, because now it's been set.
I don't know their psychology. I see your point.
Oh, it's not psychology, it's policy.
But I don't know.
No, we lived it.
To Peter's point, would you agree, Paul, that we really need to fight for this? We can't.
Yeah.
There's no point being. Many people, they keep voting for Liberal or Labor.
Yeah.
They think, these parties have a track record. They're going to, eventually make things better. The Greens, Fusion, they don't really have too much all the things that Fusion and the Greens are fighting for, they'll eventually be done by Liberal and Labor. But I think, Peter, I guess what I'm hearing is they won't. Yeah. Liberal and Labor have. They're mates.
They're part of the monopoly.
Yeah.
They're part of the monopoly. I don't even call it a duopoly. They are the monopoly, and they put laws in place to ensure they stay in power.
And we need to fight for our rights. Yeah, even with viewers might like to watch our recent episode with Lambros from the Labor Party, and his common argument is that you got to vote for a party who's actually going to form government. Yes. Anyone else is a waste of time. These people are great at hanging on to power. They're excellent at it. Yes. I don't know. Viewers might think I was very agreeable to Lambros, but I think we made it pretty clear when we disagreed. I'm not going to shout at my guests. But anyway, Paul, I understand. Did I remember correctly that there's a political party aspect to this organisation as well?
There's a series of articles that we're publishing at the moment, and it's the sixth in the series, and it's titled "Coopetysm Party."
Oh, okay, yeah. Also, would you run yourself?
It's an imaginary party. I ran just for marketing purposes, just for something to talk about, really.
Oh, federally?
When was it? 2022.
Oh, okay. Oh, what seat was this?
That was the Senate.
Oh, okay. In Victoria.
Yes. Yeah. You absolutely have no, and it's part of the reason you have no chance of winning. It's not it's actually zero, like real zero. As running as an independent, and it's partly because of what you said about the structure. They have the numbers up the top, and then down the bottom you have the independents, and so people have to number all the independents if they want to do it that way. Otherwise, they just put one, and that's it. Finish.
Oh, just a bit of background to listeners. If you vote, so when Paul was running for the Senate in Victoria, this people in Victoria vote for, I think, 6 senators across the whole state. So Paul would have had to be in the top 3 or so most popular candidates in the whole state. And then if you're voting above the line, that's just you choose a party at a time instead of a person at a time. And so, above the line, you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And, your votes flow versus if you don't have that box above the line, if you don't have a brand, a party, you have to run as an individual. And that means the voter has to fill in 15 or so, 1 to 15 sort of preferences, and nobody's going to do that. So,
with you at the top. Probably.
Yeah.
But anyway,
how many votes did you get?
Some hundreds. I think you need more than 100,000. So there's absolutely no chance. Even the person who got the most, I think got around 10,000 votes, which is nowhere near in the ballpark still. And that person knew that when they went into it, and we all did, I think.
Oh, you got to start somewhere, though. I mean, there are some people who, they get burned out in Fusion, for instance, because I guess it can be hard to see the progress. If you look at one single election result, I mean, plenty of people, have told me and other Fusion people, you got 1%, 2%, why not just give up? I think, you have to start somewhere. And also, Paul, do you see as well, that feeling I want to be part of the solution. I can't just be complicit and endorse all these problems going on around us. Someone has to offer us a way out.
Yeah, and I agree with all what you're saying, and I also think that that the end of the line for us is not going to be pretty. And so we can keep going the way we're going, but we won't even have a Liberal Party and a Labor Party by the end of it.
Well, outcome achieved.
But I don't think we'll have the system that we've got.
Well, even better.
System.
Even better. Like, I don't think this system's actually giving us the outcomes we deserve. So why would I want to contribute to this current system?
Well,
personally, like I said, I think this system is delivering the outcome it wants, and that is basically have us serfs to fulfilling what they want us to do, like
what the current people in power want to keep.
And they want us, like you said before, be subjugated to this debt, right? And basically, people are living out there. They have to drive into roads that they own now, pay tolls to come in and act as you said, the first responders. Teachers, etc., come serve the people that live in these cities, Melbourne City, Brisbane, etc. They'll be paying more for the healthcare, more for the schools. Go back out there, pay your little lots of land that are out there, the schools that we don't fund anymore. But then have these, Jacinta Allen, the Premier of Australia. Someone's, they're now going to lock children up, give them adult, sentencing, right?
Yeah.
And when, they had some expert even on the ABC News who said, all the studies showed locking people up does not change this, right? All the studies
Oh,
show.
it doesn't reduce crime, yeah.
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 Right?
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, well, go ahead.
I'm not here to argue this. These are what the experts say, right? And this woman was presented to Jacinta this information. She says, I gather that, but this is for the victims. I want justice for the victims. Yes, the victims and the perpetrators, but this is a system that you're generating. You're the one putting disenfranchised youths to live out there, without education, everything else, right? And locking other kids up and getting them institutionalized. And you're saying, no, we're going to do more of that in privatized institutions.
Oh, do they still have privatized
Yeah,
prisons?
they're opening up more as well.
Interesting, yeah.
So again, these are the systems, this system, that why should I be subscribing to? I don't subscribe to it. I don't want Labor Liberal.
I don't like it either.
Yeah.
So actually, so Paul, the podcast, My First Party, we're meant to be, we're trying to encourage people, how can they get politically involved? Why do they need to? That sort of thing. So I guess, Citizens Dividend Organisation, you're always looking for more members, I suppose. What would people be doing if they joined?
Well, I would like the Fusion Party to take on this policy, and then I would just fuse into the Fusion Party, and I would totally support it. I don't want to create a party, and I don't want to even be doing what I'm doing. But, what else is there?
I wonder.
So please consider taking it on.
I would argue that Fusion's policy is indeed very similar.
Yeah, but you're still not talking about the minimum wage.
Well,
that's important because that's where you get efficiency, no unemployment.
I don't want
government fund.
I don't want people getting exploited doing stupid shit jobs.
They won't be exploited because they have the universal subsistence.
They won't have to work at all.
Yeah, but
they'll have no unemployment, so they'll choose.
Paul, you seem to be arguing so I guess you're saying we rely on market forces. People won't want to work for bad wages, and there'll be enough other people in, my situation where we don't have to accept low wages.
No unemployment, so there's lots of jobs.
So then keeping this threshold, this minimum, won't that be inherently lower anyway, that it can just be ignored under your model?
No, it won't be ignored. Whatever the unemployment is today, that's because of it.
Wait, hang on. Okay, so let's say
imagine
let's
all
say
those
the
hundreds
minimum.
of thousands of people, the unnecessary suffering they're going through. Do you know how much the minimum wage is?
Oh, doesn't it depend on which job?
Okay, but just the
minimum.
Oh,
wage
no,
have
wait.
to pay some.
Yeah, sure.
It's $24.95 per
Okay.
hour. And it works out, and people can check this, but it works out to about something a bit over $42,000 after tax a year. Now, what we're doing is we're pitching the USI at $24,000 a year.
Yeah.
So you get that. You don't lose it when you've got work, of course. So paid work, I should say. So are you going to be able to get another job? Of course you are. Now the economy's going gangbusters. Also, taxes are going to drop because the government's got more money. So you'll be keeping more of the money you're doing.
People are spending more.
But then, so hang on.
GST's still out there, right? People are spending more.
Hey, hang on. So Paul, let's say, okay, minimum wage is $25, okay, an hour at the moment.
Yeah.
If you want to scrap it, isn't this because you want people to now get paid maybe 20?
No, it's not.
Okay.
For instance, at the moment, we've got a lot of people, let's say 1 million or more, who are volunteers. And what that really means is they're earning 0.00 per hour.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are working, pretty under workplace conditions alongside people who are earning paid work. Is that fair? It's not fair.
It's voluntary.
Yeah, okay, but they could be earning, let's say, $15 an hour. But no, they can't, because the ACTU and Labor and Australian society says no, you're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Well, hang on, that's not very free, is it?
Yeah. I see.
So $24,000 and children get $6,000 goes to their guardian. So you imagine, you've got a minimum wage worker now, and let's say that person is in a partnership, two adults and 2 kids, and the partner isn't working. So they're earning about 42 grand after tax. Well, hang on, with this system, which is going to make the government more money, and there's no dole bludgeon narrative, none of this us and them or anything like that. They're earning 60,000. They're in 24, 48, 2 kids, 54, 60. And that's before it goes to
there was one job in this scenario, and there was a family of 4, including 2. Okay, sure. Yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
So that's it.
Okay.
So the deal is very good, and then when we consider taxes going down and really going down, we're not talking about is it going to be 18% or 19% or something like this on the first threshold or whatever. But we're talking about it absolutely collapsing. Because the government will have so much money, they won't have the expenditure outlay. Businesses.
Something to look forward to, yeah.
Well, so you can bring us to the Fusion Plenary next Congress.
Sure. I should say, viewers might have noticed, I no longer introduced myself as the Fusion convener. I'm no longer on the executive committee. So yeah,
so standing.
I don't have as much influence as I once did in the.
I hate this self-deprecating Owen.
Well, anyway, let's wrap it up. Okay, Paul, people want to go to your website. What's your website? Sorry.
Citizens-dividend.org.
Okay, cool. Paul Ross, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Okay.